This is the beauty of what we're doing today. It's always great that we have discussions every day about how others should improve, right, in their walk with Christ. That's good because we're called to teach the people. Don't get me wrong, right? Not in a way of condemnation, but in a way of just trying to get better. Today we had a very good conversation, a couple of different times about how we can improve, how we can better serve the people of God, right? We had a lot of conversations about how we can better serve the people of God. And I think that is a place that we really need to continue to press forward into. How can we better serve the people of God? You know, how can we be better in what we are trying to do here? I think that's key. Romans 7:3, why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but fail to notice the beam in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye while there's still a beam in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the beam out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. How can I be hateful and talk to somebody about pork? Right? How can I be a fornicator and talk to somebody about a Sabbath? How can I be a adulterer and talk to somebody about a Passover? Does that make sense? How can I not have peace and self-control, but I'm telling somebody else about some fringes? Does that make sense? We can't be in this position in life where we're just like the Pharisees. It is a way that Torah observance can make you like a Pharisee, right? When you got the big fringes on your clothes and you don't eat pork and you keep all the feast days and you keep the Sabbath, but your heart is so far from God, he has no idea who you are. We can't pretend like we can't get to that point. We can't pretend like we can't get to the point when we become like the scribes and the Pharisees where we're whitewashed tombs. We can. And a lot of times we do get to the point where we become whitewashed tombs. We forget to pray. We forget to read our Bible. We just wake up every day and the only thing we're worried about is pork chops and feast days and Sabbaths. What about caring for the poor, the needy, the oppressed, the widows? Huh? What about righteous judgment? What about using just weights? What about paying people correctly and on time? We forget the weightier matters of the law and we focus on the smaller things. Now, again, the Messiah says, these you ought to have done without leaving the others undone. That doesn't mean that you forget about the weightier matters either, though, and focus on the lesser. That's the opposite of what he's saying. So as much as we use this verse to tell others, okay, don't forget about the feast days, and don't forget about Shabbat, and don't forget about pork chops, and don't forget about tzitzits, so on and so forth, we also need to use it on ourselves when we sit back and examine ourselves, that we cannot forget about the weightier matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faith. The overseer James tells us to live as those who will be judged with mercy, because if you don't show mercy, how can you expect to receive mercy? That makes sense? So it's good to have these discussions about how we improve. Not always how somebody else can improve, but how do we improve? How do we get better? How do we reach people better? How do we treat people better, talk to people better, even when it's difficult, even when it's hard? Even when, sometimes I ain't in the mood to hear you yap at me, but listen, it's okay. I got to calm down. I got to stay in the spirit because I have an obligation to you, and I have a bigger obligation to my Messiah to feed his sheep. Peter, if you love me, feed my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Feed my sheep. Now, you can't feed a sheep by opening his mouth and shoving the whole bottle down his throat. You're going to kill the sheep. Does that make sense? Sometimes we have this want to open somebody's throat and just shove the whole bottle down. That's not feeding the sheep. Right? So we have to watch ourselves, guys. Stay prayed up. You know what I'm saying? Stay prayed up. How do you keep the name Christian and still following the Torah? In the book of Acts, it tells us they were first called Christians in Antioch. The Apostle Peter says, if anyone suffers as a Christian, suffer well. So those are two places we see Christian in the Bible. Christian is a biblical term. I understand the pushback sometimes, but it's a biblical term. We don't run from that biblical term. What specific verse was added 430 years later? What was added 400, that comes from Galatians chapter 3. But it's referring to the Levitical priesthood, the sacrifices. That's what came 430 years later. The specific verse is, let me pull it up, in Galatians. The specific verse in Galatians is Galatians 3:17. The specific point in the Torah you can point to is Exodus chapter 32. And then the Exodus chapter 32 through 34, to be fair. So that's the law that came 430 years later. Yes, Barry, I'm saying that Christians should keep the law. Yeah, the priesthood, the Levitical priesthood in particular. Yes, the Levitical priesthood in particular. But yeah, guys, this was a good day. Yeah, please come up, Barry. You can ask the question, man. Listen, and this is the best day for you to come because I'm being honest with you guys. I feel the most peace I felt in a very long time today. You know, to be honest with you, I feel very peaceful today, very peaceable. So I ain't gonna promise you. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to get more and more. But I ain't gonna promise. I know myself. So today is a great day to come up. I'm not gonna hold you. Today is, if you want to come up, today is the day to do it. You know what I'm saying? I agree with you, brother. Love God, love one another, and follow Jesus. The Bible tells us, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. Right? So I agree with you. We should love God and love people. The love of God is that we keep his commandments. The same way if you love your parents, you obey your parents. You love your wife, you do the things that your wife needs of you, needs from you, wants from you. Same thing with God. Same thing with God. But that's why the Messiah can say, on these two hinge all the law and the prophets. Little teaching. Like, if I go and I preach to a person today that doesn't know the gospel, you know, that doesn't know Christ at all, never picked up a Bible, and I tell them the gospel is Jesus Christ, and they accept Jesus Christ, and I end with them and I tell them, hey man, listen, I give them an Acts 15-esque list. I say, man, you know, stay away from sexual immorality, stay away from blood, stay away from lust, and I leave him. And he has 2 girlfriends at home, but he treats them both well. You know, they both know about each other. He's not lying to them. But I never told him that he can't have 2 girlfriends. He's not sleeping with them. He just has 2 girlfriends. Is he not loving God? No, because he just doesn't know any better. I didn't tell him any better, right? He ain't had time to read the whole Bible yet. He ain't made it to Matthew 10. You know, he doesn't know. He thinks he's perfectly fine. That's okay. That's the point of loving God. When you know better, you do better, right? When you know better, you do better. When you understand more of God, you do better. I didn't tell him about the Sabbath. He didn't read about the Sabbath. So if he goes and he doesn't keep the Sabbath this Saturday, that's on me. That's not on him. He loves God. Everything I told him to do, he does it. This is why we can say, for this is the love of God, to keep his commandments aren't grievous. That's why we can say that all the law and the prophets hang on those two, love God and love people, because the more you love God, the more you learn about God, the more you'll do the things of God. And that's a good question to ask you in the comments, Barry. What exactly is the law that you can't keep? Like I always ask people this, which law are y'all reading that's like hard? I mean, what, like don't have sex with animals? Don't marry your grandma? Like, what law are y'all reading that's like so exceedingly difficult that you don't think you can do it? What is which one is it? What's up, Asher? How are you?
Yeah, hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to just give my opinion on this topic.
Sure.
So, while I'm a Christian and I don't believe the Old Testament was written to us, I think it was written for the Israelites of the olden times.
Hmm.
However, I have an uncle who is very rich. He's a very rich man, and he told me, he said, Joe, the source of my wealth is I obey the Old Testament. You know
Yeah.
what he told me? That everything in the Old Testament he still does. He still like doesn't eat pork. He doesn't do this. He does all the commandments, and I think he's right, and you're right. I think the laws of God are the laws of nature. So although you might not believe in it, but if you practice it, it's still going to be extremely beneficial to you.
Yeah, that's why God gave them to you, brother. That's why Christians should keep them. That's John 10:10. The Messiah said, I came so that you can have life and have it more abundantly. You're right. The Torah makes everything in your life better. It tells you how to do better business. If you do good business people, then more people come do business with you. If you use just weights in business, more people want to do business with you. If you pay your employees on time, you'll have better and happier employees. If you give all of your employees 1 day a week off, they can spend with their family, they'll love you even more. All the things that the Torah commands you to do are good for business. They're good for relationships. They're good for a loving God. They're good for health. That's why the Messiah came, to bring these laws, to fulfill them, to teach them in his fullness, so that we can have a better life. That's what God wants for us, a better life, a blessed life.
Yeah. Yeah. So finally, I think you are right. Finally, in a way that we as Christians we should the Torah and the Old Testament is just too there's too much wisdom in there to just sideline it. So I think we as Christians we should look more into the Old Testament and practice it in our lives.
All right.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to say.
All praises, brother. I appreciate
Have
you,
a
man.
nice day.
God bless you, man.
Yeah.
Good day.
Yeah.
I want to put out something Shield Lab said here. Shield Lab said, it can be kept. His commandments are not burdensome. He did not give you anything beyond your reach. It's two places where we see this at in the Bible, guys. This is one of the coolest things ever. I realized this so late, I felt bad. All right. I felt kind of bad. Here's Deuteronomy chapter 30. He says, for this commandment I give you today is not too difficult or beyond your reach. It is not in heaven that you should need to ask who will ascend to heaven to get it for us and to proclaim it that we may obey it. And it's not beyond the sea that you should need to ask who will cross the sea to get it for us and proclaim it that we may obey it. But the word is very near you. It is in your mouth and it is in your heart so that you may obey it. Right? So here God says that the commandments that he gave are not too difficult. Now, do you know who quotes this passage that most people don't realize? And then once again, I didn't realize for a very long time. The Apostle Paul quotes this exact passage about our righteousness. It says, for concerning the righteousness by the law, Moses writes, the man who does these things will live by them. The man who does these sacrifices will live by them. But the righteousness that is by faith says, do not say in your heart, who will ascend into heaven? That is to bring Christ down. Or who will descend into the abyss? That is to bring Christ up from the dead. But what does it say? The word is near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart. That is the word of faith that we are proclaiming. So knowing Christ, having the example of Christ, the law is not too far from us. We simply go to Christ. We simply go to Christ. We look at Christ's life. And Christ's life tells us how we should live, how we should walk, how we should talk. It is not too far from us. It is in the Messiah. It is in the one who came to show us the way. What's up, believer? Believer, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Are you hearing me?
I hear you, believer. What's going on, boss man?
Oh, I've just been listening to your stuff, and I've seen a comment from our viewers. But
Yes, sir.
I'm hearing that you're saying that we should be keeping the law.
Yes, sir.
But what laws exactly are you to
Say it
commandment?
again. You're breaking
Exactly are
up.
you expected to be keeping the 10? You're not hearing me clearly?
Nah, man, you're breaking up on me. Try now.
Oh, right.
Mm-mm. All right. I'm gonna drop you, man. Try to re-request, see if that helps. I don't know. I'm gonna remove you. Try to re-request up and see if that helps.
Testing my connection. Can you hear this?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't think it's I think it's more his internet connection. I don't think it's like a headphone thing. I think it's an internet connection. Can y'all hear me well on YouTube? I'm coming through pretty. Is it choppy or something on YouTube just to make sure?
No, you're good.
Okay, good.
On YouTube, I don't know. I'm on TikTok.
Normally YouTube is better than if TikTok is good, YouTube is normally great. You know what I'm saying? TikTok is the one that goes first. TikTok is what I have all the problems with the connection sometimes.
I got a question.
Okay, go ahead, Ray.
What's your name? So that I could address you by name.
My name's Nedrick.
Ninja?
Nedrick. You can call me Nas.
Oh, nice. All right. How do we keep the 7 feasts?
What do you mean?
You know, because I'm the type. I love Jesus, right?
Yes, sir.
And I want to do everything that Jesus is asking me to do too.
Yes, sir.
So if we're supposed to keep the 7 feast, how do we learn how to keep them 7 feasts, being that we was never taught that?
You read it. It's in the Torah, and it's in the Gospels for a lot of them, right? So, for example, the Messiah told you how to keep the feast of Passover in the Gospel. He said, "Take this bread that represents my body, and take this wine that represents my blood." And he says, "Do this every time you come together for this. Do this in remembrance of me." That's how we keep the Passover. When it comes to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, we go to the Torah and we go to the Gospels. The Torah tells us that for 7 days we should abstain from anything that has leaven, any rising agent. All right. But then the Apostle Paul tells us that we should also remove the leaven from our lives, the leaven of malice, wickedness. The Messiah tells us this too, the leaven of the scribes and the Pharisees, the hypocrisy. So we should try to remove the sin from ourselves. That's the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The Feast of First Fruits, in the Old Testament was to bring our first fruits to God. We should do that as well, right? First fruits for everything that we earn. We should bring that to God on that day. But we should also remember that Christ was the first fruits of those risen from the dead, right? The Apostle Paul tells us this. So then we should celebrate Christ on the day of first fruits. When it comes to the day of Pentecost was the Feast of Grain, or it was when you present the 2 loaves before God, right? Those 2 loaves were presented before God on the day of Pentecost. It was proselytes there, and it was ethnic-born Jews there. So the 2 loaves were presented before God and were accepted by God. So we see that in Acts chapter 2. So we celebrate, right? We remember those 2 loaves being brought before God. When it comes to the Feast of Trumpets, there was no particular way to celebrate trumpets even in the Torah except the blowing of the trumpet. But what do we see the blowing of the trumpet as? The Bible tells us, cry aloud, spare not, show my people their transgressions. So we go out and we preach the gospel to gather the believers together, as well as to preach to the world. We get this from the context, Feast of Tabernacles. The Torah tells us that we should dwell in tents for 7 days, dwell in booths for 7 days. And remember when we were in the wilderness. So now we as believers, we dwell in booths for 7 days. And remember when we were in our wilderness of sin. And then when it comes to the Day of Atonement, the Bible tells us to afflict ourselves. This is the day that we were supposed to bring a lamb for our sins for the year. Now we know Christ is that once and for all sacrifice, so we remember our lamb sacrifice. But we afflict ourselves to remember the sin in which we have committed. So we just go to Leviticus chapter 23. We read the feast, and then we read through the Gospels and the letters of Paul, and it shows us even more of the spiritual meaning behind the feast. But it's in Leviticus 23.
Okay. Yeah, it's crazy because I just got done reading Leviticus this morning too.
Oh, yeah. So go back, take a little backtrack, and just go right there to 23. It'll tell you about all the feasts and what we should kind of do to keep them, so on and so forth. And then you got a Discord or you got an email maybe? DM me. If you DM me, I don't want to say it on live. Be careful. But if you DM me your email, I'll send you, I got a sheet on it. It kind of cross-references the Old Testament, New Testament, and how we keep the feast as believers, and I'll email it to you. You can take a look at it and read over the verses. Don't just trust me, but go read the verses. I put a lot of verses in there. Go read the verses in there, and you should be able to come to the same conclusions.
Gotcha. Right. Thank you.
God bless you, man. I appreciate you.
God bless you too. Thanks.
And I'll be honest, guys, again, that's why we do what we do. A lot of people think we do it for the sake of arguing, for the sake of getting famous. The reason why we're here is for people that just love God. When the brother came up and said, man, I love Christ, and I want to be just like Christ. And so we want to be able to show people how to live this life that pleases God, how to live this John 10:10 life What God has blessed us with, we want to bless people with it. As freely as you were given, as freely as you should give. So that's why we run these lives. It's not to win arguments. It's not to be right. It's not for me to say, look at me, I'm the big bad Nazarene. I know everything. I don't know nothing. I know what Paul knew. Paul says, I didn't come to you with all kind of wisdom. Right? I didn't come to you. I came to you preaching two things, Christ and him crucified. I know the text. I know the Bible. And I want people to just be able to live like Christ lives. That's the crux of it, man. What would Jesus do is the answer to the question. So that's the idea, man. Listen, guys, being that it is Shabbat, I'm actually probably finna hop off so I can make sure I get everything in before Shabbat comes. One thing I do want to say, and I'll tell y'all a quick tidbit here. We're putting together, I'll end with this. We're putting together all the quotes from the Hebrew gospel, that Jerome placed in his writings and other places. And one of them tells the story that made me think about it when his brother put this comment, right? One of them tells the story, right, of the rich man asking Christ how to receive the kingdom. And Jesus quoted the 10 Commandments. If you read that verse in the Hebrew gospel, it's beautiful because the Messiah says, the text tells us that the Messiah responds to him when he says, I have kept them all. The Messiah responds to him, how can you say you're keeping all the commandments when you are rich, you have excess, and your brothers and sisters, the Israelites, are in despair, and you won't even take any of your excess and give it to you. You don't even stretch a hand out to give any of your excess to the children of Israel. That means you're not keeping the commandments. You're not loving your neighbor as yourself. And this is why the Messiah tells him, so if you really want to follow me, go sell all you have and give to the poor. He's correcting the fact that you cannot have this excess wealth and not be willing to share it with those in need. Now, I'm not a pastor telling you to pay tithes. What I am saying is, guys, if you have the excess and you see someone on the street and they need something to eat, get them something to eat. If you have excess and you see the homeless person outside the store, go get them something to eat. It's Matthew. Hold on. The verse that we have is Matthew 19:21, but you have to look it up. Type in Jerome Hebrew Gospel, Matthew 19:24. It'll come up. Jerome Hebrew Gospel, Matthew 19:24. And we'll have it in the Discord soon. I'm working on the translation now. But yeah, if you just type in Matthew 19:24, Jerome, you'll see it. But yeah, guys, yeah, you're right. It's the same thing James says, right? In 1 James. It's the same thing James says too. James repeats the same kind of topic. So, but God bless you guys, man. I appreciate everybody for tuning in today. Sorry I'm leaving a little early. I mean, we almost at 3 hours, but I gotta go to Sam's Club and get ready for service tomorrow, so on and so forth. What version what do you not recommend the NIV version of the Bible? Why? The NIV version of the Bible is a paraphrase to me. It's not a translation. The NIV is paraphrasing it. It's going too far thought for thought. If you actually go to the blue letter and you're losing the NIV, you won't be able to really get the Greek understanding or the Hebrew understanding. It is kind of a paraphrase. I prefer closer to a word for word. Even a thought for thought is okay sometimes, but it's not. I prefer a word for word. The NLT is the same way. Yeah, the NLT and the NIV, they're more paraphrases than they are. They're more paraphrases, man, than they are like word for word translations. That's why I like the BSB. BSB is pretty word for word. The CSB leans a little more thought for thought, but it's still word for word. The NASB 95 is really good. It's really close to word for word. So I look for a more word for word translation. Still in modern English, but I still want it word for word from the text. I don't want you to tell me what you think the text is saying. I just want you to tell me what the text is saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't tell me I think this is saying this. I don't care what you think. No disrespect. I just want to know what the Bible say. The ESV is pretty close to word for word. The ESV is a good one too. If you want to get my top 5 Bible translations, BSB is number 1. NASB 95 is number 2. CSB is number 3. NASB 2020 is number 4. And ESV is number 5. That's my top 5. If you want to know my translations list. What's up, Mr. G?